That night, out of nowhere, the bedroom door suddenly slammed shut. The bed began floating in the air. And from the mouth of that little girl came a deep, masculine voice saying, "I am the devil. I am Satan." Hello and welcome to Hauntflix Recaps. One day in a church, they discovered that a demon had brutally mutilated the private parts of the statue of Jesus Christ's mother. Why? At the same time, we see this little girl hurting her own private parts again and again while muttering forbidden demonic chants under her breath. This is one of those movies that the world calls a cursed film, because it has taken many lives. What is in this movie that caused people to die because of it? This is known as the most cursed horror film on Earth. The year was 1973, in the mysterious ancient city of Hatra in northern Iraq. Excavations were taking place there in search of ancient relics. An elderly man named Martian was helping with the digging. Suddenly, he uncovered a strange little stone statue. It was the statue of a demon, the demon known as Pazuzu. The people of Iraq believed that this demon brought famine, locusts, and terrible diseases. Martian became deeply troubled the moment he saw the statue. A little later, when he walked to an open area, he saw a large statue of the same winged demon towering over him. Not far from it, two dogs were fiercely fighting in a strange, unsettling way. Father Martian understood very clearly, something evil, something overwhelmingly dark, was about to happen. The scene shifts. In a town called Georgetown, we see an actress named Chris. She was shooting a film, directed by her friend, Bark. Chris was also a mother, her daughter's name was Reagan. The two of them lived together in a big rented house. After finishing the shoot, Chris returned home. While chatting with Reagan, she noticed a Ouija board lying around. In Western countries, the Ouija board is believed to be a way to communicate with the dead. Chris was surprised to see it. She asked Reagan, "Do you play with this?" Reagan replied, "Mom, I don't play alone. Captain Hardy plays with me." Who was Captain Hardy? That remained unknown. Chris didn't take these things seriously. She assumed it was just a child's imagination. Meanwhile, in another church, we meet Father Karras, a priest and also a trained psychiatrist. He traveled to New York to visit his sick mother. One silent night, Chris was awakened by a phone call. She noticed Reagan sleeping beside her. Reagan suddenly said, "Mom, my bed keeps shaking again and again. I couldn't sleep, so I came here." Just then, Chris heard the strange noise from the upstairs hallway again, a noise she had been hearing for days. But every time she checked, she found nothing. The next day, Chris took Reagan to a doctor. Reagan was calm at first, but suddenly, a terrifying demonic face flashed before her eyes, and she lost control. She began behaving bizarrely, even with the doctors. Chris asked, "What's happening to my daughter?" The doctor said Reagan might have a nerve disorder causing psychological imbalance. Minutes, hours, days, weeks, and months kept passing like this. One day, a priest entered his church and witnessed a horrifying sight. The statue of Mother Mary had been grotesquely vandalized, with wounds inflicted on the statue's private areas. Blood was smeared everywhere. Terrified, the priest understood how evil a force must be to do something like this, to desecrate something so sacred. The next day, Father Karras learned that a relative had placed his mother in a mental hospital, where conditions were harsh. When he went to see her, the old woman cried in a strange, broken voice, "Son, you did wrong leaving me here. You will suffer." A few days later, she died, alone and in pain. That night, Karras dreamt a nightmare, his mother calling out to him from a street, but he could never reach her. Sometimes he even saw glimpses of a demon in his dreams. Meanwhile, Chris hosted a party at her house. Karras and a few friends were enjoying themselves. Suddenly, Reagan appeared and told one of the guests in a chilling voice, "You will die, up there." Then, right in front of everyone, she urinated on the floor. Everyone immediately understood something was terribly wrong with the child. Chris quickly washed her, put her to bed, and left the room, but then Reagan screamed loudly. Chris ran back and saw the bed violently shaking as if something unseen was tossing it around. The next day, the doctors decided to perform a special scan to check for abnormalities inside Reagan's brain. They cut a small part near her throat to insert a needle and begin the scan. The test was painful, but strangely, they found nothing wrong with her brain or body. The doctor told Chris her daughter might be hallucinating. But Chris had seen the bed shaking with her own eyes. The next day, Chris saw something terrifying. An invisible force was lifting Reagan off the bed and slamming her back down repeatedly. Reagan cried for help. Chris called the doctors immediately. Suddenly, Reagan's voice changed into a deep, demonic male tone. It said, "What did you think? You could catch me?" Then Reagan slapped the doctor and screamed, "This body is mine. I own this body." The doctors held her down and sedated her. Chris was now drowning in fear for her daughter. Returning home, she learned that her friend Bark had fallen from the stairs and died. Chris burst into tears. But then she saw a horrifying scene, Reagan crawling down the staircase backwards, her body twisted unnaturally, vomiting blood as she came down. It was an unimaginable, demonic sight. Finally, a psychiatrist was called again. He hypnotized Reagan and asked the spirit inside her why it had possessed her. Reagan's voice changed, she transformed, and attacked the doctor right where a man should never be hit. The doctor was helpless. After this series of disturbing events, several doctors had a meeting with Chris. They said, "Your daughter may be possessed by a demon. Try an exorcism." Meanwhile, because of the horrific church incident and Bark's death, a police investigator named Kinderman began questioning Karas. He asked whether Karas had ever encountered a patient who practiced witchcraft. Kinderman suspected these incidents might be connected to black magic. When Bark died, he had gone alone to Reagan's room, and someone had pushed him out the window. But the strangest part was that Bark's body was found with his head twisted completely backward, something physically impossible. Kinderman discussed the case briefly with Chris and left. Just then, Chris heard Reagan screaming and ran upstairs. She saw Reagan in a monstrous state, holding a cross and stabbing her own private parts with it over and over. In a deep male voice, she cursed God with horrible profanity. Terrified, Chris ran forward to grab the cross from her hand, but Reagan transformed again, shoved her mother across the room, locked her in, and tried to topple a large cabinet onto her. Chris barely escaped with her life. After this, Chris meets Father Karas and asks him to perform an exorcism on her daughter. Karas refuses at first, but eventually agrees to meet Reagan. Reagan's condition had gotten much worse. Her violence had increased so much that she had to be tied to the bed. The moment Karas enters the room, Reagan speaks in a strange voice, "Look at me. I am the devil. And you know, Karas, your mother's spirit is with us too." Whenever Karas gets close, Reagan vomits on him. At first, Father Karas suspects Reagan might be suffering from a psychological disorder. But the moment Reagan talks about his mother, he realizes she may truly be possessed by some demon or spirit. The next day, Karas records his conversations with Reagan to gather evidence. When he listens to the tapes, he discovers she is speaking backwards. Karas becomes certain that a terrifying demon has taken over Reagan's body. A child with a mental illness might act strangely, but speaking backwards is impossible. And on top of that, the demon inside Reagan kept talking about his mother, trying to break Karas emotionally. Suddenly, Chris and Karas see the words, "Help me," rising from under the skin of Reagan's stomach, as if her soul is crying for help from inside. Karas goes to the church and insists that an exorcism must be done to drive out the demon. The church responds that an experienced priest is needed for this. So they choose the elderly Father Martin, the same man who was seen working at an archaeological dig at the start of the movie. Father Martin arrives at Chris's home, and Martin and Karas prepare for the exorcism. Before they begin, Martin warns Karas, "Listen carefully. The demon always lies. It will try to weaken you mentally, never pay attention to its tricks. No one can deceive like the devil." They enter the room together and find Reagan staring at them with a terrifying expression, hurling insults. Martin sprinkles holy water on her, and both priests begin reading from the Holy Bible. Immediately, the bed starts shaking violently and levitates into the air. Reagan vomits green fluid. The demon inside her laughs horribly and throws objects around the room. Not only that, Reagan's head turns fully around as she says in a cold, eerie voice, "Karas, you know your mother will never forgive you." Hearing this, Karas becomes frightened. Reagan begins floating again, and after some time they manage to calm her down. Karas ties her with ropes, but suddenly Reagan breaks free, screaming wildly. Behind her appears the shadow of the Pazuzu statue, the same demon figure shown at the beginning of the movie. Both priests are stunned and step outside the room to take a short break. Karas goes back inside alone and starts imagining his mother in Reagan's place. Reagan uses his mother's voice again and again to weaken him. Father Martin immediately orders Karas to leave the room, realizing the demon is trying to break Karas mentally, and an exorcism cannot continue with a weakened mind. Father Martin begins the exorcism alone. When Karas returns to the room, he finds Father Martin lying dead from a heart attack. He must have seen something so horrifying, something unimaginable, that his heart couldn't bear it. Karas becomes furious and loses all control. He rushes to Reagan and screams, "Come on. If you have the guts, come into me. Show me how powerful you are." Suddenly, Reagan tears off the holy pendant from her neck, and the demon truly enters Karas's body. At that very moment, Karas regains a moment of self-control and realizes that if he doesn't act now, the demon will use him to cause even more harm. So he throws himself out of the window, falling down the long staircase. His head splits open, and slowly, he dies. Then we see changes in Reagan. Her body slowly begins returning to normal. She becomes her old self again, but she remembers nothing. She has no idea what happened to her over the past few days. The next day, Chris prepares to leave the house with Reagan. While packing, she finds Father Karas's holy pendant and keeps it with her. Reagan leaves the house with her mother, and Father Dayer stands silently, staring at the staircase where Karas died. After a moment, he also walks away. And the movie ends here. Now, let's talk about some facts from the movie. At the very beginning, Reagan mentioned that she used to play with Captain Hardy using a Ouija board. But who was Captain Hardy? In reality, there was no such spirit. Captain Hardy was just a sweet disguise, one of the deceptive masks of the demon Pazuzu. Devils are known for trickery, and Pazuzu used this false friendly identity to win Reagan's trust. He played with her, kept her fooled, and waited for the perfect moment to take control of her body. He could imitate voices and even speak different languages to confuse people, just like he repeatedly took the form of Karis's mother. So that was today's video. Let me know in the comments how you liked it. No need to subscribe, just drop a like and share it with your friends.